The disconnect between the people of Hong Kong and their rulers in Beijing is what is being played out in 8 weeks of increasingly violent protests here. Last night, pitched battles again paralysed central city streets for hours. Today, Beijing condemned what it called horrendous incidents, demanding swift punishment for small handfuls of violent radicals, who it said had caused serious damage to the rule of law. The Chinese government also threw its weight behind Carrie Lam, the embattled pro-Beijing leader of Hong Kong, and her equally embattled Hong Kong police. This was the first news conference by the office which oversees Chinese policy in the territory since the handover from Britain in 1997. The mood was snappish.
We absolutely do not tolerate any behaviour that harms national sovereignty and security. Absolutely do not allow challenge to the central government's power and the basic law of Hong Kong's special administrative region. Nor do we allow using Hong Kong to infiltrate and disrupt the society of mainland China. These are the 3 red lines that are off limits. 2 systems only exist under the premise of one country.
There was no attempt at all to address the disconnect between Beijing's reviled authoritarian style and growing demands in Hong Kong for democratic freedoms. The spokesman accused irresponsible Western politicians of inciting insurrection, and then rebuffed a question about whether China might use military force to quell the protests. The law is clear, he said. It's a couple of years now since Chinese President Xi Jinping made his first foray to Hong Kong, where he drove like a rock star past massed ranks of the People's Liberation Army. There are around 6,000 of them in Hong Kong. The law states the PLA can be deployed if requested by the Hong Kong government. Carrie Lam hasn't hit the panic button yet. Outside the local PLA HQ, they started filming us as we were filming them. They're based right here in the heart of the city, just a short distance from Hong Kong government headquarters. So what would it take to have them come out of these gates and confront the demonstrators on the streets of Hong Kong? Well, President Xi Jinping would be hesitant to do that and to deploy those PLA forces here, because it would effectively spell the end of that one country, 2 systems deal it did with Britain. But that was a big question dodge in Beijing today, and it will have done nothing to dispel the fears of Hong Kongers.
I think they intentionally want Hong Kong people to feel fear by not expressing what they're going to do, but give you fear of what may happen. But as I explained many times before, if there is laws about the deployment of the army. If they need to use the army, it has to be a total chaotic situation and invited by the Hong Kong SAR government. And Hong Kong protesters gave no such excuses at all.
But these student protesters, like all those I've met in recent days, say they don't fear Beijing. They fear for their future. It's not just a disconnect, it's a gaping fault line in values.
We would like to divide us into Hong Kongers and Chinese people. So we won't.
So you don't even identify as Chinese, really. You're just Hong Kongers.
Yes, I'm Hong Kong. I'm Hong Kong.
You're Hong Kong, and you're.
Yeah, I'm Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. And do you think a lot of people in your sort of age group, late teens, early 20s, would feel the same?
Yes.
Yes.
And do you think that is also part of what's driving all of this, that you just don't want to become part of mainland China?
Yeah, I think so. I don't want to be a part of China, because if we were part of China, I think, I don't know what's going to happen.
The students who we'd met at a demo were agreed that neither Beijing nor the Beijing-backed Hong Kong government were listening. Carrie Lam, the Hong Kong leader, hadn't even been seen in public for days until this picture appeared of her at a PLA youth camp this past weekend, sitting next to China's top official here. And so the street showdowns are destined to carry on into August, that fault line between Hong Kong and the mainland, lost in billowing clouds of tear gas. Something's got to give, or something will snap.
Jonathan Miller in Hong Kong. Well, earlier I spoke to the young pro-democracy protest leader, Joshua Wong. He was imprisoned earlier this year, and I began by asking him whether he agreed there had been an increase in violence by both sides, images of which you'll see in this interview.
Force has been used by activists, but how police just try to use more upgraded equipment. They're not only trying to stop the protest, they're even trying to murder people. That's what I experienced. And they just turned the protest zone to a smoke-surrounded area. And it caused us hard to breathe. And with lack of air and inability to breathe, I just wonder, are they trying to clear the protest or just targeted activists and cause more of them to be sent to hospital? And for those riot police, they just beaten not only protesters, but even ordinary citizens and journalists were shot by tear gas and still in hospital. The excessive force used by riot police just showing that how Hong Kong and Beijing government refuse to solve the political crisis and continue to generate more tension and stay behind those frontline riot police and keep themselves inside the conference room with air condition.
Do you think that China itself will use its own security forces against you if the Hong Kong police cannot control these riots?
If they send out army, the price that need to pay by Beijing is much more than Hong Kong people, especially how the economic status of Hong Kong might be strongly eroded. International communities might just wonder and doubt, will Beijing try to apply what happened in Tiananmen Square 3 decades ago in Hong Kong, such a modern and international city?
You have been on the earlier demonstrations, the much earlier demonstrations, and indeed you were arrested and put into prison.
Yeah.
But you're out there again. Are you not worried that they will really put you in prison this next time for much longer?
They might arrest me and prosecute me, but it's still my responsibility as a Hong Konger continue the fight. Compared to other teammates have been jailed and faced the jail terms for 6 years or 7 years. The price I pay just being jailed for 100 days is just a small piece of cake.
Do you think of yourself at all as Chinese?
I recognize myself as ethnically Chinese, but never Chinese citizen, especially as the one being blacklisted by Chinese government to enter mainland China.
So do you want independence for Hong Kong?
I'm not asking for independence, but genuine autonomy is the way out. What I mean is free election. Let Hong Kong people freely elected the leader of our city instead of appointed the one just serving the interests of Beijing to be the puppet of communist regime. We hope to vote in the election to choose our chief executive instead of just being manipulating and controlling or dominating by Beijing.
But not once, but twice, you have tried to confront the authorities really with this demand. It's not realistic, is it? There's no real chance that Beijing will ever grant that to you.
Under hardline suppression and the authoritarian rule of Beijing, it seems that everything have no chance at all. But Hong Kong people is capable to create miracle. Just like on the mid of June, 2 out of 7.5 million people, nearly 25% of population took to the street. We show that when 25% of population joined the rally, urged the leader, give Hong Kong people free election, the government still ignore, our strike will not end yet. That's why I would describe now is the summer of discontent.
Isn't there a danger that the summer of discontent can become the summer of bloodshed?
Bloodshed has already happened when pro-Beijing gangs and mobs were sent to railway station, beaten and attacked on ordinary citizens, even including elderly and pregnant women. Of course, the scale is still far from the Tiananmen Square massacre. But the only belief that we still uphold is Hong Kong people hope to be the master of our own house. Calls for free election and democracy will never stop until Hong Kong is Hong Kong again. That's why, no matter the threat, pressure, or the uncertainty generated by Beijing, I would just say that threat towards Hong Kong people will never defeat us. It will just make us even stronger determination continue. I believe Hong Kong is the place deserve democracy, and international communities must show their support to be our allies.